Another sunny day in Atlantis leads to the shocking revelation that Connor Trinneer has shown up in Atlantis. I really hope this isn't a crossover with Enterprise, because that would only make things so much worse here. His name's Michael, and he learns that the same way that we do, by being told it. He has no memory of his life before waking up in this bed. He was part of a team that had been captured by the Wraith Sea.
What do they do to me?
We're not quite sure yet.
Our current theory is they dropped a bowling ball on your head. But as the teaser ends, it's clear that there's some trepidation in dealing with Michael, which I'm afraid only cements the theory that this is an Enterprise crossover. After the titles, Michael gets an injection. He's told it's insulin, that he has type 1 diabetes. Right away that raises a flag, because Michael is a lieutenant, which means, of course, that he is in the military, and diabetics in 2006 would have about as easy of a time joining the military as a lesbian who kept muttering "Death to America" during the application. It's not impossible, but to pass through all of that, and then on top of that, to get posted to a job working in another galaxy where supplies have to be carried by intergalactic spaceship, and Michael not having an uncommon skill set like the scientists and technicians around here, well, all of that seems pretty unlikely. Given that reaction during the teaser, it's more than likely that Michael isn't getting insulin, but something else, something that they don't want him to know about. Taylor decides to pay a visit, and Michael has a sense that they're friends, which Taylor confirms. She tells a story of how he bravely sacrificed himself to help the rest of his team escape a Wraith attack, but it sounds like it might have been a lie when she reports to the team, which now includes Heitmeyer, the Atlantis shrink. She backs up Carson's recommendation to release Michael from the observation room, but Shepard seems less than thrilled with that idea. And remember, this is a guy who had no problem letting Taylor go around unsupervised or restricting her duty when a connection to the Wraith was shown between her and them. So whatever's up with Michael is really bugging him. And I don't think he's prejudiced against people with diabetes. That's really a very uncommon bigotry. So Taylor shows him to his quarters, complete with a cowboy hat, because he's from Texas, and that's the law there. But one question still looms.
What happened to the blue jello?
Why are none of these personal things, or the city itself, stirring up any memories while certain people are? Not McKay, though. The usually unflappable wise-ass reacts to Michael like he's his ex-boyfriend that he just ran into in Target. But if Michael thinks that's bad, then he's in for a fun surprise soon. Part of his physical therapy involves sparring, so he and Taylor are mixing it up, mostly involving Michael getting his ass kicked. And he finally starts to show some real progress when...
Keep your hands off her!
Ronan the Barbarian shows up. It takes a great deal of persuasion to convince him that holding someone up by their neck isn't a good form of physical therapy. No, not even for proper back alignment. Heitmeyer says that it's nothing for Michael to worry about. Ronan is still adjusting and has run afoul of many members of the team, including him. So, nothing to worry about. It's just that a surly giant hates you. Don't take it personally.
But we'll continue with these sessions, perhaps even try hypnosis.
I don't see how clucking like a chicken is going to help my memory, Doc. That night he has nightmares. He's on a Wraith ship, and then he sees the face of a Wraith looking back from his mirror. This is horrible, Taylor. It's so weird and embarrassing. I hate for anyone to find out. They'd laugh at me. But I need to talk to somebody about this. Well, don't worry, Michael. Your secret's safe with me. And in the mirror was a Wraith. Wow, that's weird and embarrassing. I want to laugh at him. We all do. Actually, the team is quite concerned, and by now we can tell that they've been lying to him about something. And Taylor finally confirms that when she speaks about how uncomfortable this whole thing is making her. And Michael is suspecting something by now. Everyone, he says, is looking at him like they're afraid to say the wrong thing. Like the Wraith did something to him and no one wants to tell him about it. Heitmeyer keeps trying to set his mind at ease, so when he runs into Ronan and Shepard, Michael remembers what she said, try to move on. So he offers an apology to Ronan for whatever it is that he might have done, and offers to shake hands in the hopes of smoothing things over. Let the past go, she says, and don't... Thanks a lot, Heitmeyer. Getting punched in the face for apologizing doesn't help his sense that something's wrong here. And when something's bugging you, pills or no pills, it can be hard to sleep. So he goes to get something stronger from the infirmary, only to find Carson fast asleep at his desk. Well, he's got a sheep calendar up there. Obviously, he made the mistake of trying to count them. Except Michael notices the location on the calendar is Kenmore, his last name. Weird coincidence. He looks around to see what else he can find, and there's a whole folder of discs with his name on it. Literally, they're all about his treatment. Well, there's no law against looking at your own medical records, I think, so he swipes them. Of course, with all the cameras in the room, it's a bit difficult to check them out. Guy can't look at porn in peace around here. Going through them reveals the truth finally, and it's that things are backwards. He's not a human that had something done to him by the Wraith who captured him. He's a Wraith that had something done to him by the humans who captured him. He is naturally unhappy that he's been lied to this whole time. His history, his parents, the cowboy hat. They're in another galaxy. Who had an extra cowboy hat just lying around that they could give to a Wraith? So Dr. Weird tries to explain. Over the past 2 years, they've learned that the Wraith started as this thing called the Atlantis bug. Eventually, they gained the characteristics of the humans that it was feeding upon, so that now it's a hybrid of both. Carson has been working on a retrovirus for some time that can suppress the bug characteristics and allow the human parts to come through.
What gives you the right to do this to me?
We're at war. The Wraith will stop at nothing to kill every one of us. And we'll stop at nothing to make sure that doesn't happen.
This brings us to the controversial element of this episode, the morality of what they're doing here, which is experimenting on a prisoner of war with the hopes of developing a biological weapon to use against his species. But here's the problem that we're facing. The Wraith are the result of a freak of nature causing a creature to become specialized with a singular food source, humans, or those who are close enough to qualify. In fighting the Goa'uld, we faced an enemy that wished to dominate us, and we had to overthrow and push to the point where they were no longer that kind of threat, with the possibility of diplomatic relations and even theoretically a lasting peace. At the very least, when it was completed, there was no need for genocide. We didn't have to seek out and wipe out every last one of them. Problem with the Wraith is, this is impossible. Not because of a desire to conquer or enslave or dominate, but biologically necessary for them. Lasting peace with the Wraith is something which cannot be achieved because of that. Peace equals death for them. Thus the Wraith will fight to the last one standing if it comes down to it. This is actually somewhat similar to the problem that the other Shepard, Commander Shepard, faces in Mass Effect 2. Is the right thing to kill all of an enemy or to change them all into that which they do not want to be? That's the situation being faced with the war against the Wraith. Until now, the only option has been to find a way to kill every last one of them. What Carson opens up is the possibility of finding an alternative to that. By turning the Wraith into humans, then genocide wouldn't be our only option. The Wraith certainly wouldn't want that. As I discussed last time in Runner, they actually like this arrangement. They enjoy hunting down and terrifying humans and then feasting upon them. They're so committed to it that the only experiment that I can recall, done in secret because the rest of the Wraith would disapprove, was to make humans tastier. That's it. They would no doubt resent the idea of it. But if given the alternative to genocide, the question is, should we take it? Even if it means using enemy forces as a test subject. It's not an easy question to answer, especially when we're talking eventually about aiming towards, as Shepard hopes, a biological weapon that can turn whole ships of Wraith into humans. Strong arguments can be made that it would be the preferable option. It spares the lives of their enemies while ensuring they can no longer pose the endless threat that they have to the Pegasus galaxy. And it could be much easier to pull off than a campaign of extermination, especially given how limited human resources are in that regard. Ronan's counter-argument is that whatever else you do to them, there'll still be a Wraith. Now, admittedly, his perspective isn't without bias. He was hunted by them for 7 years, and they wiped out his whole civilization. That's the kind of thing that'll give a guy a grudge. But one point is true. They're not necessarily going to stop trying to dominate the galaxy just because they're humans. And if we can change them to humans, they might work to change themselves back. Things are, of course, even more complicated now that Michael knows what they've done while they continue their plans. He's even going to still keep going to the shrink. Yeah. Tell me, how long have you had this feeling to dominate all life in the galaxy? And this, of course, includes his daily injections, too.
What are you doing? What do you want from me?
Just waiting for you to give me a reason to kill you.
Wow. Nice day to you too, dick.
I guess I should thank you. You're the only one around here who's been honest with me from the start.
That's the other half of it. Michael's rejection of his treatment seems in part to be a result of a rejection of him. Despite all of the lip service that has been made, he's been treated like a prisoner most of the time and a pariah much of the rest. Michael sees no reason to be human because he hardly saw us at our best. Anyway, Michael's had enough and makes a break for it, disarming one of the guards and eventually having the drop on another one. He gives the guy a chance to disarm, but instead the guy tries to shoot him. Michael shoots him first, and it's clear that he didn't come here wanting to kill him, and not just the fact that Michael could have easily shot him before he said a word. His reaction isn't one of regret, but it is like he's coming to terms with what he did. That's actually the only reason he's recaptured, actually. He wasn't ready for their arrival. Of course, now that this has happened, the question is, what do we do with him now? Ronan's position is obvious, but Taylor points out they made him human and thus have the responsibility of treating him like a human. The compromise is that they'll continue with stronger treatments and transfer him to the Alpha site so he can't harm anyone else. Well, there is one flaw with that plan. Something that no one could have predicted, though. Michael's able to tap into Taylor's Wraith connection enough to manipulate her into freeing him, and with her as a hostage, to then escape from the camp.
These are the SOs guarding the gate.
Well, I'm sure they did their job. There's no reason to call them assholes. With no one in the way, Michael takes Taylor through the gate, but luckily for our heroes, she's able to scratch out the address. And luckily for her, Michael, who is transforming back into a Wraith, chooses to release her but is unsure about feeding upon her, giving enough time for Shepard to make up his mind by shooting him. But there's always the bad news. Michael was picked up by the Wraith, which means that the Wraith will find out that Atlantis still exists and come back to finish them all off. So all in all, this plan went kind of horribly to shit. Who knew that the day would come when we'd say, "Why didn't we go with the genocide? Stupid! Stupid!" We haven't seen the last of Michael, and this revelation to the Wraith is going to have significant impact on things, so naturally this is a must-see. This is not a popular episode with a lot of fans, but I'd have to say it is probably the first episode by Carl Binder that I've covered that I actually liked, although that might be because I didn't have the reveal spoiled for me like it had been for others. Structuring it this way allowed for the episode to play out the mystery for a while, and then to shift gears at the reveal into a new episode about the sense of betrayal that he feels, and then finally to the action finale. Connor Trinneer handles the role brilliantly. When he thinks he's human, he has the everyman charm that he pulls off so well. But as he transitions, we see the sinister thing behind his eyes slowly coming out to play. Also, Momoa's turn as Ronan plays nicely against this. Once Michael's nature is revealed, we see the nastiness come out in Ronan. He gives Ronan a look to him like he's savoring having a Wraith in this position. Perfectly in character, but it's a side of him that we don't normally see. I mean, he wasn't even this vicious looking when he was planning to torture Kavanaugh, but here, I actually feel sorry for the Wraith. So I think between the acting and the script, this turned into quite a solid outing for the show, and is a good build-up towards the end of Season 2.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Where are you off to?
My quarters. Dr. Beckett gave me some pills to help me get some sleep. Thought I'd give them a try.
No alcohol or heavy machinery.